Hello and welcome to another Things That Spark Joy. So in this episode I want to talk a little bit about these Visual QuickStart Guides, which make me smile somewhat. So a little bit of background to this. So sometime in the, mid 2000s, I was doing a web applications development certificate with the Open University. And it was 6 courses. I opted to spread it over about 3 years. There was a sort of course window, if you like. I think it was twice a year. And it was a new course. It was the first time it had been taught. And so for the modules, they did recommend that you did 1 module per session, if you like, per study window. I do understand a lot of people actually doubled or tripled them up so they could get it done in, say, 2 years, or even I think in 1 year, because it was 6 courses. But I opted to go for the slow but sure route, and I'm glad I did, because a lot of people complained about the volume of material in a single unit, and that's why they'd recommended you did them one at a time, because they were primarily designed for people that were also working. And I was working for myself at the time. So this book was part of the package for the second course that I did in the qualification, which was on client-side scripting. So what would happen is, at the start of the course, we'd get a materials box which had normally 1 course book, which was whatever book they'd chosen for the particular technology we were learning. And then we would receive our course guide via PDF online. Now, what qualifications I'd done with the Open University prior to that, and some of the ones afterwards, actually you had a really nice bound copy of your course guide as well, but not for this course. And then obviously the course guide would suggest certain readings from this. And what I liked about these books, this particular imprint, because at the time Peachpit Press was an imprint of, or a division of, Addison Wesley Longman. Now, as I might mention, these are still available, this particular series, although they're in a different design, and I like a lot of things, sort of attribute these books with this particular design. Reminds me of candy for some reason. But yeah, I was particularly rather like the C programming book last week, just completely enthralled by the way they laid this out, with the sort of instructions and then the actual code listings sort of clearly marked in here. But the other thing with this is, because I was working for myself at the time, I spent a lot of time out visiting clients, and this was a nice book to just take with me and read the relevant sections between visits to clients while I was waiting for the next appointment to come around. There's a section in here on CSS as well, and DHTML. But yeah, obviously very much of its time, the book, just to give you some idea. So I did, like I said, the course sometime around, 2004, 2005 into 2006 maybe. And this came out in 2001. So yeah, reasonably old by then, but still very relevant. I was surprised I didn't buy more of these, but then I remember at the time I was on a bit of an O'Reilly jag for the O'Reilly books. And what I was tending to do was, when we received the course book, and I think this was the only one of the courses where we had the this particular publisher. There was a variety of different publishers they did for different things. So, you know, we had a different publisher for, say, the book on PHP received or the book on MySQL. I think they just went for the book that was considered to be most relevant for the course, rather than just sticking with a standard publisher all the way through. But what I would do in parallel with this is I would buy whatever the sort of appropriate O'Reilly book was, just for myself, just off my own back, to complement it. Because at that time, you know, I think the O'Reilly books were considered to be the de facto standard for IT books. So consequently, I have a O'Reilly JavaScript book, an O'Reilly HTML book, an O'Reilly PHP, an Apache book, and so on. Now, because I was so taken with these, years later, and you can see there's quite a big difference between the cover of this book, you can see certain dings on it, and this one, which looks fairly well kept. I actually bought a Java book to complement another one I had. Didn't read this quite as much, but I found it really useful, and it was actually published earlier than the book we've just looked at, so 1998 as opposed to the 2000s, and I actually bought this afterwards, but I did dive into a little bit. But I do have another Java programming book, which from what I remember, is actually written by one of the co-authors in it. It was actually something to do with the original specification of Java, if my memory serves me correctly. But you can see in this book it's also laid out in a similar way, where you've got a sort of step-by-step guide, but additionally it's got the code that you're putting in listed as well. Now, of course, both of these books are quite out of date now, although some of the things they talk about are going to be timeless. But yeah, I just keep them because, one, it's nice to just dip into them and you know, revisit some of the key concepts which are timeless, but also just because it gives me a lot of pleasure just seeing them and just flicking through them. There's a tic-tac-toe game. Yeah, this one was nice. It had a lot of nice little example things you could build at the end once you'd got through the actual descriptions of the language and the various walkthroughs. Has a nice sound to it as well. There's a nice feel. The quality of the paper is really nice as well, although it looks fairly see-through. It has quite a nice feel to it. And as I've said, this many a lunchtime in my car when I was snacking between clients was spent flicking through this book. I'm surprised it doesn't have more sort of sandwich filling stains on it or something like that. I did quite well, actually. I probably had this on slightly away from me somewhere on one of the seats, and then I probably had my laptop in my lap trying to go through all of this. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the flick through. One last thing, it's always good to have a look at the spines on these, because you know, we know how nice it is when you see them, you know, lined up on your bookshelf. So thanks once again for watching. Bye for now, and I will catch you in the next video.